Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of She Plays Games, the podcast where we celebrate women in the video games industry. I'm your host, Lauren, and I've been working as a journalist and content creator in the games industry for the last 10 years. On my show, I have a chat with many women of many different roles within the games industry, whether it's journalism, games development, or even streaming. My goal is to give visibility to the many women in video games with hopes to inspire a new generation of women in gaming. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Lucy James. Lucy is a host and senior video producer at GameSpot, and after working for the UK division for numerous years, she now calls San Francisco her home. Throughout this episode, we discuss Lucy's inspiration for seeking out a career in the video games industry, why she misses big conferences like E3, and how she adjusts to new roles, expectations, and working environments. I really hope you enjoy listening to Lucy's story, and if you like what I do, please be sure to subscribe on your chosen platform. This is episode 38 of She Plays Games. Hi, Lucy. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I think what you've managed to accomplish so far has been just so incredible. And am I correct in saying that it was actually your dad who introduced you to games when you were a kid?
Yeah, definitely his fault. My dad has this never-ending need. It's very much keeping up with the Joneses, I think, but that kind of gravitated into him getting really into gaming at one point. And he just wanted to have the best computer that he could have, never really branched out into console gaming. My dad was always about PC, but I remember him getting a new PC just because his old one wouldn't run a Worms game.
I love it.
How far back we're talking. But my dad was really obsessed with my dad's a very logical person, so he really enjoyed puzzle games. He played a lot of Myst. And I don't know how or why, but he got Doom and Quake. And my dad is the sort of person who, he has two daughters, very protective of the two of us. And so, growing up, couldn't watch an 18-rated film or do anything like that. But Doom and Quake were fine. And I guess that's the disconnect between parents not understanding ratings on games and stuff. But yeah, so we used to play games together. We used to play Tomb Raider, and my dad is also very big into golf. So we would play Microsoft Golf Simulator, which is not one, I think, for a young kid who doesn't necessarily understand timing or, just the ins and outs of a simulation game. But yeah, from there I got The Sims because a friend of mine had it, and I thought it looked really cool, and he bought Sims for me and was just really supportive of that. I would spend so much time playing The Sims, and he just would be like, "Oh yeah, do you want the next expansion pack? What are you building? Show me what you're doing."
Aww.
Which is very sweet.
Yeah, that's so nice. I think it's those sort of little moments that really sort of encourage you to sort of flourish in your interests.
Yeah. Except a couple of years ago, I was back in my dad's house, and I had my laptop, and I play Overwatch a lot. And so I was playing with my friends, and my dad went, "What are you doing in this game? Can you He literally, in the middle of an Overwatch match, my dad asked me to explain the lore of Overwatch. And I was like, I have, across two platforms, maybe 1,000 hours in this game. I could not tell you the lore of Overwatch. And he was like, yeah, but okay, so why do you have a mech? And why is that guy on roller skates? And I was like, this is not the time. I'm trying to capture a point. But he's always been supportive.
Yeah, I just love it that bless her. My mother-in-law is very much the same. She likes to ask a lot of sort of intense questions when you're doing something that you really need to focus on. But I mean, maybe that is content that, just got to get into, like Overwatch lore videos. Come on, man.
I would love that. I would love it. I think my dad would enjoy like Dark Souls and Bloodborne.
Oh my
lore.
gosh, yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing he could get into. I got my mum when I was playing Mass Effect for the first time. My mum came in and she was like, "What are you doing? This looks weird." And I was like, "Oh, this is basically, like linking it to stuff that she likes." I was like, "This is Star Trek."
Good.
I'm Commander Shepard here is basically Captain Kirk. That alien lady I'm gonna romance. And she was like, "Okay, I'm in. I get it." And so
you got me at alien romance. That's cool.
So then she started to watch for a bit, and then she was like, "Oh no, this is not for me." But like I remember being at university and playing L.A. Noire, and my roommates, only one of whom was into gaming. The rest of them would come watch L.A. Noire like it was some kind of police procedural show, because that's the way the game is kind of set out. And so that was really fun. And it's actually quite nice because now one of the girls I lived with is now a big gamer, and she messages me and she's like, "Oh, do I get Spiritfarer for Switch, or do I get, I've kind of exhausted Animal Crossing. Do I try Stardew?" And so it's really nice.
Yeah, I think like university is kind of like a great experience for gamers, especially because like if you're in your dorm, like you get exposed to everybody else's interests. I remember that's how I got exposed to Condemned Criminal Origins, which I probably would not play myself.
Yeah.
Bit cowardly, but like I think having a console or just playing games in general in university is just such a fun experience.
Oh, we did it. We did a lot of it. So my when I went to university, the halls that I was in the same halls as my friend from school, who I didn't really speak too much at school. His name was Joe, and I went over to his what would you call them, like apartment, like flat one day, and he had brought his Xbox 360 and Guitar Hero.
Oh my god!
And other people in his apartment, in his flat, were big gamers, and so he moved it into the living room, and then that was our year. Like we would just go and play Guitar Hero. We would play through Batman Arkham. We played we had the Wii as well. So we had everything. Like we were playing Resident Evil 4, and as well, like we all started to watch Battlestar Galactica together. We watched Heroes together, and so we had just a really nice little group where we would all just kind of be just gaming together, like friends. Like we would sometimes just skip university for the day to play Guitar Hero or drinking games. So that was really nice way. And like I don't think I would have tried Batman Arkham when I got my 360, if I hadn't seen Joe and Alex play it and talk about it and love it. So totally agree with you that university is such an important part of at least my gaming journey.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it was BioShock. Like I would never have played BioShock, honestly. Like it was so far out of my sort of interests because I was like a JRPG nerd and I just loved like anything Japanese and not first person shooter. And then playing BioShock with actually funnily enough my friend Joe I just was like, oh my gosh, I actually feel brave enough in order to play this game because I've seen you play it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, no, friends named Joe they make the world a better place.
They do. They're all the gamers.
Yes. So speaking about university, you went initially to study psychology, but by the end you realized that your heart was in gaming, I'm guessing because you spent most of your time gaming. But when you decided to try and get into the games industry, like, was your family supportive of the change?
So I had more of a rocky time at university. Well, I mean, I was going to say maybe more so than most people, but I think more people struggle at university than they let on, because university is supposed to be this, you're leaving the nest, you're going out and you're doing your own thing for the first time, when in reality it's terrifying. You've got no idea what you're doing and you've got no money. And as was the case when I was at university, the country's just coming out of a huge economic crisis. And
Great time.
As is the case for most people at university now, dipping into another one. So I didn't enjoy university at all. I've always been a very anxious person, and like a lack of control over things led me to spiral pretty bad. I almost dropped out.
Oh, bless you.
It was like, knowing what I know now about like how my life has turned out, I wouldn't change a thing, but it was miserable at the time. But yeah, so university, and so I played more games. I started to write. I got an internship. I think the internship helped a lot when I just kind of told my parents, because I was very independent about it. I just was like, oh, I'm going to live in London for a month in hostels, which, thinking about that now, is like, I wouldn't let my daughter do that.
Yeah, I know.
But my parents were fine about it. They didn't hold me back. They just kind of said, I think at one point, you sure you want to do this? And I said, yeah. And then when I did move to London, like when I actually went through with it, my dad was really supportive, because my dad is like very ambitious, and he was like, you should always chase what you want. My mum, I think, was a bit more of an empty nester, and so she needed a bit more time to come around to it. Still doesn't necessarily understand what I do. And actually, like, speaking of COVID and pandemics and stuff, that's been a real weird one, because I talk to my parents, I text them most days, and then we have a phone call every few weeks. And I spoke to my mum on Christmas Day, and I spoke to my mum again on New Year's Day, and she was like, you don't have a lot to say. And I was like, well, I love you, and I could talk to you about anything, but you don't understand what I do for a job, so I don't want to bore you with that. You don't really have a frame of knowledge about gaming. You're not interested in that. I'll tell you about the stuff I'm playing, but I don't want to bore you with that. And so she was like, no, tell me about the games you're playing. And I did. And she was like, yeah, you're right, I didn't care about that.
I think that is the thing that I think as a parent, you just like to hear your kid talk.
I think as well, yeah. I think when I was telling her about, plans I was having for 2021, and just, stuff that on the surface isn't interesting, I was telling her that, like, oh, I'm going to throw out and go through all my t-shirts and get rid of and donate the ones that I don't want. That's going to be my big project for this week. And she was like, oh yeah. And that's what's conversation. But gaming, less so. My dad still plays Myst. He actually, for Christmas, not this last Christmas, the Christmas before, he asked me for games to play. So I got him a bunch of stuff on Steam and just gifted it to him, like the Talos Principle room. There was a remake, I think, there was a game made by the people who made Myst that came out a few years ago. So I got him a bunch of those, and Portal. Portal was, I remember it being comically cheap. I remember it being about £1.50. But, just the stuff that I think he would like. So it's strange. I've got one parent who loves gaming and one parent who's ambivalent.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen, though. Like, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with my kids, whether or not they're going to be interested. Because they're definitely interested in games. Like, my eldest is, like, addicted to Hollow Knight at the moment.
Oh, wow. How old are your kids?
So my eldest is 5 and my youngest is 2. They don't play Hollow Knight.
Oh, wait, they don't play it. I was going to say, because I'm almost 30 and I can't play Hollow Knight. I'm not good enough. So if I'm being bested by 5-year-olds. No,
don't worry. You're cool. Your game cred is on still. No, she watches my husband play and she just loves it. And I must be honest, I love it. Like, the music is gorgeous. Like, and the lore is beautiful as well. But yeah, I don't know, because his other interest is sports, and I have absolutely zilch in sports. So like, it's always going to happen, isn't it? Like, always sort of, you're going to gravitate towards something. But it's really, really nice though that you do still have it with your dad.
Yeah.
And that's so cute that you gifted him the games. I love that. I think that's so sweet.
If he's played them, I should check in on his. I think I'm his only Steam friend. I should check in and see what he's been doing.
Steam friends.
Steam friends is my dad.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, and then, I mean, sort of going back to what you were investigating at uni, you were investigating the ties between like video game addiction and self-esteem and depression and the risk of committing violent acts. I think like the idea that video games make violent people still keeps a lot of people away from games. I mean, what kind of things from sort of doing this, what kind of ways do you think we can sort of eventually get away from the stigma of that?
I think a big one is actively questioning any type of research that comes out of psychological study, because psychology. So this is part of the reason why I did not care for psychology. And I think part of it is very, very interesting. A lot of psychology is very, very interesting. And I think it's because of the investigation into the unknown. Like we all have some kind of organ that thinks for itself and is the interface with which we experience the world, right? And yet we don't have really many proper scientific ways to investigate how it works or why humans behave the way they do. And part of that reason is because psychological study has a real replication issue. And part of that reason is because due to ethics and things, you can thank people like Harry Harlow for that, is that a lot of psychological testing is done on students who are only there for credit.
Yeah.
So they will do pretty much whatever you ask them to do. And you can't take those findings and easily put them into the real world, because that's not the real world situation that everyone, like, currently I'm not a student, so I could do a psychological test and maybe have a completely different response. However, everyone takes the findings of psychological research and they're like, oh, well, this found this, so gaming must do this. And it's very, very frustrating. And so for a while, particularly when I just left university and I was still very much kind of had a toe dipped in that world, I would look at all of the findings that would come out. And I remember about 2013, 2014, this huge meta-analysis of all of these video game violence studies were done. And it was like, oh, yeah, gaming has negative effects in this, that, and the other. And I remember looking through it and I was like, the methodology on this is so flawed. And the thing is, well, that doesn't sell a headline. That's not, people are going to be like, oh, meta-analysis showed this, but you're never going to add but meta-analyses are also kind of flawed.
Yeah.
You can't balance and you can't have a control for everything. And so that was a rant about why I don't care for psychology. But I think it's also a very important point that people will just take those studies at face value because, oh, well, the scientists know, the psychologists know. And yet there's not really enough being done to examine the real intricacies of it. And it's, I said earlier, psychology has a replication problem, and it's wild to see that all the studies that you're taught, specifically at A-level, when you're about 17, 18, as gospel, this is why humans do this. Humans can be primed with different language to act older than they are, and you can't replicate that. It's just a one-off, or it was, the statistical analysis showed something, but if you ran a different statistical analysis, it wouldn't show anything.
Yeah.
So,
I think that is the thing. I think like with your previous experience of like being in, like studying psychology, like it comes down to that thing where like knowledge is power, and like where you just sort of feel like, you have the power to look at things with cynicism, and that's a skill that you just garner like over time through basically just triangulating information over time. And like it's a shame because not everybody does that. Like there's so many people still who would just look at a headline and say, well, that supports the fact that I believe, so therefore I believe that. And but yeah, no.
I mean, look at just like random stuff that people post on Facebook and take as gospel. Like my family will send me stuff and they're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this about COVID. And I just go, where'd you get that from? Oh, someone forwarded it to me on WhatsApp, or I saw it on Facebook. And I'm like, well, I'm going to Google this and I'm going to get a source and I'm going to, actively, it's, people don't want to go that extra step and look into stuff, I think. And it's an awful byproduct of the internet age. I think it's just so much easier for people to confirm their biases, and whether that's with political stuff, religious stuff, if it's, you know, all the terrible stuff like homophobia, you know, but as well, it trickles down into gaming, because if you're part of a generation that believes that gaming is a waste of time or bad for you, you can easily just find something that will confirm your bias. So
exactly. And it's so weird. Like I'm finding it so strange, the generation gap between like people who find gaming to be okay and find gaming to not be okay. Cause like, you know, you sort of get past a certain age group, like maybe we'll say like at the moment it's like 36, 37, and they are still of the mindset of like being against games. But like younger than that is like games are perfectly fine. And like that's not to say that everybody is that way, of course. Like that's you know, but from what I've found, like especially with the fact that most parents around me are of that age, I can't talk to them about games whatsoever, because they either find games to be, as you said, a waste of time, or they just find them really toxic. And like it's just such a weird sort of transition we're going through. Hopefully things change, but who knows?
I think so. I think 2020 at least had, I mean, God, it was a boom year for gaming. It was just regardless of if there were new consoles or not. The Animal Crossing, you know, Switches were sold out.
Yeah.
They, like, mainstream media, you know, you've got Gary Whitta, a writer on Star Wars, doing a talk show in a video game and getting guests like Selena Gomez. You know,
I know. That was so cool.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And I think that's gonna help. Like, things like that are really gonna help. The fact that gaming is, in a weird way, it's like redefining itself from being it's just, you know, especially like if you think about gaming in the 80s and 90s, you know, it's always portrayed in movies as, it's the nerds in their mum's basements, that kind of stuff. And now gaming is doing, I mean, the PR is very clever. They're aligning themselves with events and people and the zeitgeist, and they're becoming, and it's probably more of a symbiotic relationship, but you know, they're changing the perception of gamers everywhere. And it's cool to be, you know, my dad messaging me because he saw an article about, God, I remember it was a few years ago now, but he was like, oh look, this is Ken Levine, he made a game called BioShock, have you heard of it? And you know, my mom will text me, she's like, oh, I saw PlayStation on the news. And, you know, so that's, I think we'll get there eventually. I think we just have to get over the hump.
Yeah. Yeah. The 2020, the year that changed gaming.
Oh God. I mean, the projections for sales, I did a panel a few weeks ago on CNET, and, you know, we had Victoria Tran from Inner Sloth, who make Among Us. We had Greg Miller. We had Matt Piscatella from the NPD group, and all of them from different aspects of the video game industry were just saying that like 2020 sucked, but for gaming it was unbelievable. You know, like sales projections, consoles, software units, hardware units, audience growth. It was unbelievable. So I wonder if that trend is going to continue past pandemic life, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I hope so. I mean, I thought it was astounding that, like, you know, Cyberpunk was everywhere, but Animal Crossing is the one that sold like over 30 million, wasn't it? Like 30 million in the end?
Something ridiculous like that. And also crazy. As well, the one that I didn't even think of, but Ring Fit Adventure selling 12 million, which is, you know, I think Final Fantasy VII Remake sold under 10.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's incredible.
I mean, I got my Ring Fit Adventure, and I'm ashamed to say that I don't think I used it once in 2020. I got it in November 2019, I think.
I've been tempted. I've been tempted to get it, but
it's really good. Like, it is really, really good. I am just not an exercise-minded person at all. As soon as I left school and I didn't have to do sports anymore, which is weird because I played tennis a lot. I played tennis every day. I played for the team. And then as soon as I went to university, I was like, oh, there's another way. I can just sit down.
Not gonna do that anymore. Nah, bruh. I'm cool.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, Ringfit is honestly, and I work a lot, and so that's my excuse, which is terrible. But it is a very easy gateway to play. So I can totally understand how it's so popular. And by all accounts, like from my friends who play it, love it. So it's gone to the graveyard next to my exercise bike that I bought on a whim.
I love it. That's why I haven't bought a Peloton yet. Like I've been tempted to like buy it.
If you want the hack, you don't have to buy a Peloton. You can buy like a cheaper bike. You can buy a thing that registers your pedal movements that syncs with your phone, and you can either get the Peloton app, which is like $13 a month over here, or you can get Apple Fitness, which does the same thing.
I should do that. That's good.
Honestly, like you can tell. So I got hyperfixated on this, and I did a lot of research, and then I did it.
That psych degree came into use. You do your research.
Oh gosh. But yeah, the one thing I'll say is if you get a cheaper bike, definitely buy a better seat.
Yeah, I don't want a sore bottom. That would just put me off completely, because how can I sit down anymore?
Exactly.
And that's important. It's like, oh, I got beautiful legs, I got a beautiful core, whatever, but I can't sit down anymore. This sucks. Okay.
Oh no, it's genuinely, I said to myself, the one thing about my exercise bike is that I will never hang clothes on it, because that's when I know
that is the graveyard. That is the doom sign.
So it just sits there in the corner staring at me.
Oh, bless. But yeah, I mean, sort of looking back at your psychology degree, sorry, we're spending so much time on your psych degree, but like, did you feel like there are transferable skills? I know we kind of like, we kind of graced over some of them to start with anyway, but do you feel like there were transferable skills between that and what you're doing now?
I don't know, honestly, because it certainly taught me to look at things in a more critical way. Basic research skills. I definitely don't use the statistical stuff. I don't use the neuroscience stuff.
Yeah.
It certainly taught me a lot of interesting facts that I can sort of pepper into my everyday conversation. The thing about my psych degree is that in order to be an accredited degree, you had to have a very prescribed list of modules. And so I didn't necessarily study the stuff that I was particularly interested in. So I think, Freud and Jung, despite being wildly problematic in their research methods, I think are very, very interesting. And I think Jungian archetypes in particular. So recently I've been kind of studying, just for myself, just like studying a bit more about, writing and applying Jungian archetypes. When actually I've been doing this a lot. Like I've been doing like bits and bobs of marketing stuff here and there, and bits and bobs of like creative writing, and just the application of stuff like that I find very, very interesting. But I didn't study it much at university. What university did teach me, I think, is that I didn't want to do this one thing, and that it lead me to the thing that I did want to do. So like I said earlier, I wouldn't change it for the world. I also don't know if I would go back and have done a game design degree or something. I don't want to dip my toes into that discourse, because that's been wild on Twitter this week.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, it is a fair point that, like, it's so difficult to say anything really in terms of higher education, because sort of, as you were saying before, like there's not a solid evidence to mark either way as being correct, because there are so many people who have gotten into the games industry who are very talented without degrees in games design, and like, but then there's also a lot of people who would say that their degree is what got them into where they need to do. It's just hard to put like a solid line to say, this is what you need to do, this is the only way. Like there's things I think that make it easier, but there's definitely things that it's not impossible.
Yeah, totally. And it's just the luck of the draw. And people ask me how I got into gaming. It's like, it was luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Like, I was involved in I managed to get a very good internship. I managed to do that because of just sheer luck and circumstances. Like, randomly tweeting someone one day and they responded is, that's not going to happen all the time. It's, and it was, luck of the draw that they had a vacancy at the time. It's perseverance, luck, but also building that foundation for yourself so that when opportunities do arise outside of the opportunities that you create for yourself. One cool thing that, people I've seen a lot of in 2020 is people putting themselves out there more, streaming, writing their own things just for them. But it means that when opportunities do come up, they have this incredible catalog of work that they can immediately point to. Because when I've ever been a hiring manager and I've said, oh, I need someone who can do this, people are like, oh, I can do that. And I ask them for any evidence of which they've done it. I just get nothing. And it's like, oh, well, I know I can do it. It's like, well, so
yeah, show me,
please.
I know. But I think like one of the nice things about you and sort of what I've found from other people I've interviewed is the beauty of going with the flow, because you've not really been too afraid to say yes to things, in the sense that, like, I know at one point you said that you went into video editing and you hadn't obviously done a degree in video editing, but like you said yes to that. And it's those kind of experiences and doing those sort of things, like not overlooking any type of skill that you can sort of have, not necessarily like, I don't want to say like, you're actively thinking like, oh, well, if I use this, then I can do this, but just sort of being present and being curious, I think, is something that is really valuable.
I agree. And I think it's very important, and it's something that I value a lot in, because I'm at the point in my career where I actually manage people now, and I was doing some performance reviews, and I realized that, both of my direct reports are so agile and, they just hop onto new opportunities that I ask them if they're interested in, like, immediately, and they actively, want to try new things and learn new skills. And so that's something that I did a lot when I was starting my career, because I don't know, I guess you can kind of identify, for example, how big video is going to become. You can just sort of see the little water in the glass moving, I think, like in Jurassic Park. You can just tell you can just sort of sense when things are going to become more important. And so and also I think if you don't learn, you stagnate and it becomes boring, and you do the same thing in and out. And so, over my career, I have, gone through phases where I'm strictly a host, I'm strictly a writer, I'm strictly a video editor. Most of 2018, I was a project manager. And then now, like, I am equal parts host, project manager, and like I edited a video just last week because I thought it would be easier to do it myself than give it to someone else, because I had a vision for it. I knew exactly what I wanted. So it's, I don't know, you learn these skills, it keeps you relevant, it keeps you busy, and it means that if you do go through a phase where you're just doing one thing, when you can dip back into something that you used to do all the time, it just feels nice. It's like riding a bike again, because you're like, oh yeah, I still remember how to do this.
I think that is the thing. Like, I used to kind of look down on myself for the things that I had like tried in, like, sort of as I've gone up, like, why did I spend so much time doing this when I could have been like focusing all of my efforts on this? But I think, like, as you say, like, it shouldn't, like, it doesn't have to be that way. It could be just that, like, this is just another key on my set of keys, and it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. So I had to do my resume again recently for my visa, I hasten to add.
Visas. Oh.
Yeah. And just keeping note of all the stuff that you can do is really cool. And it kind of, when you get that look back moment, you're like, oh yeah, I did that, or I can do that. I don't give myself enough credit.
Yeah.
Which is one thing I'm trying to do more of, because I feel like a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit for the stuff that they've done. And I think 2020 has been, everyone is understandably very down, very stressed, and no one's giving themselves enough credit to just say to themselves, hey, you got through that, and so I'm trying to be nicer to myself, I suppose.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Everyone should try it. It is nice.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially now, which is just, it's hard. Yeah. So, I mean, you went into freelance journalism to sort of start with. Like, how did you sort of keep yourself motivated at that time to just keep going with it?
I needed money. So I
love it.
It was a strange one. So I left university, moved straight to London. I moved in with a friend from school, a friend from university, and a friend of a friend who now is a shout out to Caroline O'Donoghue. She's written best-selling novels and is killing it on all accounts. And I just remember, drinking wine with her in a kitchen when she was just writing funny blog posts about, I was thinking about this the other day because I saw her crop up somewhere, and she had the funniest blog, and she was writing this story one day about this weird film that I think Jake Gyllenhaal was in, where he had a nail in his head or something. Oh. I keep meaning to try and find it. So we moved, and it was 4 young 20-somethings who all just managed to find this great place, which was very cheap, in Gypsy Hill in London, and my student loan was pretty much out. Caroline at the time worked in a job agency, so she would get me occasional bits and pieces. I was a cleaner at the Lawn and Tennis Association in, I forget where it was, but it pretty much cost me more money to go out there than it would cost that I would be paid. It was a really expensive journey, but that was cool because I was a big tennis player, so I got to meet famous tennis players and clean up after them, I guess. But so I had that going on, and I had some savings, and then from when I was a kid, my family gave me savings and they just put them away, and I kind of burned through those that summer. But I would pick up, freelance gigs here and there. I went to E3 off my own back. I paid for that myself, but I got a bit of freelance from it, made some connections. That was, one of the best things I ever did, was just send myself out to E3, send myself out to GameSpot that year, because the connections I made were, so worthwhile. And so I think, just the more I did it, the more I loved it, and the more I wanted to keep doing it. And so that's how I kept myself motivated. And then eventually I did just get I'm trying to think how I met these people at an event for sleeping dogs. And, from there they asked me to come in, and that's when I started to do hosting for the first time on a freelance basis. And then eventually I ended up being full-time there. That was at Jinx.
And that was at Jinx.
That was Jinx.
And that was the process of of you getting in at Jinx, and I mean, so what did you do to prepare for the role?
I don't really remember. I remember them asking me to come. I met Adam Mason in the beer garden at Gamescom, and we chatted about, I think, what I wanted to do, what my skills were. And then the next week I came in for a kind of interview / screen test, I suppose, and I hadn't done much on camera by then. And I remember them calling me. Oh, I think I was in Hamleys. I think that's right. I think I was in Hamleys. You? And I think I was with Sean LeBode at the time. We'd been to an event, and then we ended up going to Hamleys. And I got the call, and they were like, hey, do you want to, we can offer you some work. Do you want to come in? Blah, blah, blah. So I didn't really prepare that much. And I was very fortunate. And I worked there for 2 and a bit years. Yeah, 2012. And I left in 2014, summer 2014. But I learned a lot there. I had people who would coach me to be on camera, do better at, like not, there's things that you do when you're on camera that you don't notice until you watch them back. And so helping me get over that embarrassment of watching myself back.
Yeah.
And, gently pointing out the things that I could change. And so that was a really invaluable experience. That was Simon Longdon who helped me out there. And then I worked with Adam Mason on the show called The Blurb. That was basically me and him. He would be the main producer. He would give me bits to write. I would go out to events, and he would be the person responsible for making sure it all came together, and then would give it to post-production to kind of finish up. And then when I went to GameSpot, I tried to poach him, and he was in the middle of being poached by our ex-boss from Jinx, and then eventually managed to convince him to come to GameSpot. And so then we got to work together again on loads of projects. And so I've been working with him since 2012, which is wild. And now he got married and had a kid. And so, yeah, I've worked with Adam more than anyone else.
Oh, that's lovely. So nice. Yeah, that must be just so nice to have like almost like a partner in work, a partner in career.
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice. And then kind of wild to see how far I think we've both come since Jinx. Because Jinx, like, he was working round the clock, like being in charge of a TV show, because you are held to different checks and balances than just publishing something online. Like, it had to go to Sky, for example. It had to go out for translation. Like, being on top of all of that was, as well as managing all the PR stuff too. He was a superhero.
Yeah.
And so coming to GameSpot, where, much bigger team don't have to, really pay attention to very specific things that Sky need, or because we were in different countries, for example, in some countries we weren't allowed to show X, or in some countries you weren't allowed to show Y, not having to pay attention to those details and, share the load a bit. So it's been great. But Jinx was a very important place, I think, for both of us.
I think like going from a place where you have to wear a lot of hats to going a place where you don't have to wear a lot of hats is just something it is like almost like a boot camp type thing, isn't it? Like, I think those kind of situations are so important.
I think so too. I think in terms of hat wearing, I think we both still wear a lot. I think I wear more now. I wear more because I definitely do like more project management. For a while I would write the theme tune, sing the theme tune, write, edit, host, publish, do the whole kit and caboodle for a few years, and then moved into project management and content planning. And so, but it's more hats, but it's within a reasonable time period, and you can always delegate. So that's the big difference.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think I would be bored if I didn't have a lot to do. Probably shooting myself in the foot saying that. But
here you go, Lizzie. You asked for it.
Yeah, and so it's nice. And I think part of getting older and knowing what you're capable of is crucial when you need to say no to something.
Yeah, it's like that nice balance of saying yes enough and saying no enough. And I'm definitely guilty of not saying no. It is so hard. Yeah,
because you want to be that person who says yes to everything and like look and feel like irreplaceable and just like, I'm on top of everything. And then it's like, but you burn out that way. And so learning to say no is, or even learning to compromise and, what should I prioritize instead?
Like setting boundaries.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky that like GameSpot doesn't ask me to overload myself. It's just because I choose to do it. And so that's a big thing for 2020 and 2021 is that I'm like, no, I need to take better care of myself because I'm living and working in the same room. I have my PC set up, and that's, very much where I work. And I refuse to work from bed. That is my big no-no, is that I will never take my laptop and sit on my bed and work. If I want to do something on my laptop, I'll go in the kitchen or the living room. Like I need to have some boundary. Like I've positioned a plant so I don't necessarily have to see my camera setup from my bed. Like and my boss literally yesterday said, feel free to delete Slack from your phones because we all need that balance. Like we all need to be smart about it, because you know, you don't get to leave the office at the end of the day. Your office is your house.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends who will work until 10 o'clock at night because they just figure like, let's just do it. And it's just like, but you know, you need it. You need a break.
My boyfriend is the same. He gets up early to work, and then he's getting better at like setting those boundaries. But I think if he didn't, he would work all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Come play Apex or something with me.
I know. Yeah. Like just chill for a little bit. Go get sunshine. Oh, but yeah, I mean, going back to E3, like, I mean, when I went, it is just such a magical experience.
When did you go?
So I went 2011, and I mean, I had been to like sort of conventions, but like going somewhere where it was an expo, and then you had to jump from place to place to do like interviews and see previews. I wasn't ready for the jet lag. That was the worst bit.
Yes, that'll do it. Because that was the first time I'd ever been to America. So I've been E3 2012, and then every year since, pretty much. But I don't know why I said pretty much. I have been every year since 2012. Apart from last year, I suppose.
Yeah, it's true. You did miss a year.
I missed a year. The jet lag
no fault of your
is
own.
the one that gets me. I mean, a couple of years ago when I did a lot of travel, my jet lag routine did improve, you know, like sleeping on the plane and trying to adjust to a time zone as soon as you can. So important. But then you kind of get in there, and it is like being in a theme park. Everything is so over the top. Everything's so loud. There were fewer people, like the divide between when they opened it to the public and when they opened it, and it was just business. It was definitely less busy, but it was still so busy.
Yeah.
You just didn't really have the lines, I guess. But no, I miss E3. I think people will try and get E3 back how it was, but I don't think it'll ever hit those highs again. In terms of scale, I think with publishers doing their own events, Microsoft spinning out, PlayStation just not going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, Xbox will continue doing their FanFest stuff. I think PSX will come back. I don't know about Nintendo.
Yeah. Oh, bless
Nintendo
them.
I think Nintendo might be the more traditional, and, just maybe appear at like all of the rest of them, like if PAXs come back and EGXs and such. But it's weird. It's sad to think about, and a lot of my friends are kind of commiserating, like, oh, imagine if we were in LA, just hanging out at the JW Marriott, which is, the bar that everyone kind of descends upon every night.
Yeah.
Even though it closes at midnight, it was never thought through, but everyone would always end up there and go there after the Game Awards and just like hang out and just see people. And like that's the big thing I miss from events, is just like walking down a corridor and seeing a friend who I haven't seen for months. But, we talk every day, and it's just like, oh my god, I didn't know you were going to be here. I'll see you tonight. And just hanging out with people and like meeting new friends. Like so many people I've met and got to know in the industry, I've just met at events, and then it becomes like, you're there for work, obviously, and you work really hard, but then you get to enjoy it and just be excited about games with other people who are just nice and have the same interests. And, and I have weekly movie nights now with people that I met at E3, and, I miss it. I miss my friends.
I know.
I think everyone just misses their friends at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I really was gutted because like, I just love the electricity in the air. Like everybody's like everybody's tuned into games, and it was just such a nice experience to just have it all there. But yeah, to think like it might not happen in the same way again. I mean, I only got to go to one, but like it was just such a fun thing. And I have to admit, slightly also a cool thing is when you like happen to be in the presence of a celebrity there that you weren't expecting.
Yes.
Like, I have to say, like, that is one of the fun things about E3 is that there's more of a chance of that because they actually are in California.
It's so weird as well
really
when you just see someone that you like, who like, because E3 as well, when they do more of the celebrity stuff, like I've seen some huge names at E3, and I'm just like, why are you here? Why are you here?
Just go.
Jodie Foster one year.
What?
I met Jodie Foster because she was like hanging around looking lost. And I was like, can I help you? And she was like, oh yeah, I'm here with my son. And I was like, I loved you in Silence of the Lambs. like slightly. Yeah. But it's like, why are you here? Like other celebrities I could see because they have the crossover. But like, yeah, it's really cool. And it's like, I don't know, it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the crossover between gaming and quote unquote regular pop culture. It's like you get those crossovers. It's just like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know. Daryl always goes back to this one experience when the Wii U came out. So that's the year that we went. I ended up being able to play the Wii U with Zachary Levi.
Really?
Yeah. And apparently I don't really fully remember, but apparently I didn't lose well to him on the Wii U.
Oh my God.
Apparently Daryl said that my face looked pained and angry. And I didn't realize that it was Zachary Levi with me. And like even afterwards, he was just like, you were playing with him. And I was just like, I don't care, Daryl's. I lost. I just want to leave.
Oh my God. I love that. It's like, I know people who, I think someone at work peed next to Jack Black.
Oh, really?
A couple of years ago. He was like, I can't say anything. I can't say anything in this situation.
Oh, that's so weird. Oh, I love it.
It's so strange.
Yeah, but hopefully one day we'll have those experiences again. One day. I
think so.
One day hopefully. The celebrities will come out again for games.
Honestly, I would just like, I love the feeling of being in a demo and just seeing the devs like be excited about games that they've been working on for so long and seeing it and like seeing the reaction and the devs kind of like, because it's such a thankless, exhausting job demoing.
Yes,
day in, day out, same spiel, same half-hour blocks. Hopefully, hoping that the code doesn't crash, hoping that people like it. And then when people like it and applaud and you see the devs get like that intake of energy that will sustain them into the next presentation is like really, really cool. And so that's another big thing I miss is that like I'm still very fortunate and I get to interview developers a lot. But going to E3 and in my role at least hosting on the stage show and speaking to like just icons who have made some of my favorite games and just like asking them questions about it and just chatting to them and realizing that they're normal people.
Yeah.
And they're really nice and you get some cool insights. It's like, that's the stuff I really miss. Sucks.
I know. One day.
I mean, you can still do it over Zoom. It's just not the same.
I know. Cause but yeah, we need to come up with something. We need those experience like, oh, you remember when the guy came on for, was it Unraveled?
Oh, Pickle 2?
Yeah, when he came on with his little unraveled figure.
Oh, no. Oh, you're talking, yes, I know exactly what you mean. That was so sweet. I thought you meant the guy who came on to announce Pickle 2 and just did a jump and said Pickle 2.
Did he?
That's what
I don't remember that one. But no. The guy who came out with his little, with his little figure and he was so nervous. Oh, bless him. He was shaking.
Oh, Yanni. Oh, yeah, that was very, very sweet.
That was so cute. Oh, but yeah. In any case, so I just have one more question to sort of close us out. But I know you've said, although you love your career and what you're doing now, I remember you saying that you think it would be really cool to actually like develop your own game. And I just wanted to know, like, what would be your dream game to work on?
By way of franchises and studios, Rockstar. I think they are the absolute just masters of the craft, and I appreciate that so much that like they only release one game every few years, but that game will be true to their vision and it will be always excellent. I think Red Dead for me is the franchise that I would love to work on. I also think Mass Effect, just because I've done a lot of stuff around Mass Effect recently, and just I that is the franchise that will always give me chills.
Same femshep forever.
New femshep forever now. Although I think I'm gonna go back to ME1. She's my femshep.
I know.
But I think I would want to work on a game that has like a strong vision and a strong story. So like pretty much anything that, Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica would do, or like I said, Rockstar, Mass Effect. I would want to be something where it's a very strong narrative, and like incorporating a lot of emotion, a lot of heavy topics. Because I think if I were to go into dev, I would want to be on the side of gaming as an emotional, immersive experience. And that's not to say that you can't get those experiences with something like a COD or an Overwatch, because you absolutely can.
Yeah.
I think I would want to make something that would give players the like, oh my God, moment. Like, I want to emotionally devastate people, I guess is what I'm saying.
You want to kill them. You want them to be knee deep in Kleenex by the end of your game.
Yeah. And so I don't know, like I love my job at the minute because I get to tell stories, and I get to I get to talk to developers and tell those stories, and I love doing that. And I love the team that I work in, and GameSpot as a company has always been so good to me. And they brought me to America, and they've given me so many opportunities. And so I'm not saying that I'm moving into dev or anything.
No.
It's always something that's like, after working in games for like almost a decade at this point, it's I think it would be cool at some point to see what the other side of the fence is like.
Definitely. And that's all I have for you. So, I mean, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with me. It's been amazing.
It's been so lovely. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of She Plays Games. Please be sure to follow Lucy on Twitter and Instagram at LucyJamesGames. Also, if you want more episodes of She Plays Games, please be sure to subscribe and follow me on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube by searching She Plays Games, and on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at She Plays Podcast. If you want to be on the show or want to nominate someone to come on the show, you can email me at sheplayspodcast@gmail.com. See you all next time on She Plays Games.